for us. But I can't tell you how proud I am of our team in terms of the way they competed really all year long since the Ole Miss game. And this was a tough one today, but they certainly responded well and did the things they needed to do to have success.
Start with Michael. Derek had a school record for rushing attempts today. Just how big was he in the way he seemed to keep getting stronger in the second half?
Well, we really would like for somebody else to run the ball, but it got tough to take him out, and he seems like he gets stronger as the game goes on. So it's hard to take him out at the end, though. He's the go-to guy. He didn't want to come out. He wanted to go. He said he was good, and he certainly finished the game like we needed to. And my hat's off to him as a competitor, and he really inspires everybody on our team, the way he competes and the way he plays, the toughness that he runs with, and what a spirit. What a spirit.
Right here with Aaron.
I know you don't look at the past, but something poetic about Adam making 5 today here, given last time he was here?
I don't really think about that. I'm just happy for this team, this day. That game will be something that I never, ever forget, and that certainly wasn't Adam's fault. But he did a great job today, and I'm not talking about just making the field goals, but great on the kickoff, and he's really done a nice job of finishing the season for us, and certainly was as good as you could be today.
John?
On that one drive, Jake scrambles around, gets up a bunch of yards, and then a couple plays later, I think scrambles, throws that long touchdown. Just what does that kind of say about his athleticism?
Well, I think that it says a lot about the kind of competitor that he is, and he's very athletic for his size. They had some pretty good athletes rushing. 55 is a really good player that he made miss, on that particular play. And when you have a quarterback that can scramble, that's one of the things that breaks down the back end is about as much as anything, because it's really hard to stay with your guy. And Derek got behind him, and Jake made a great throw. But I think that Jake has played extremely well for us. He certainly did a great job today for us. We had another chance to make a big play with Ardarius and just couldn't quite hang on to it. But we need to continue to work in the passing game because we have a lot of confidence in Jake and what he can do. But he did a great job of getting us in the right play a bunch of times today, and that's why we're able to run the ball effectively, especially at the end of the game.
Which I was going to follow up with. How much do you like this team because it plays defense, it runs the ball, it really fits into how you like to play the game?
Well, it's not necessarily how I like to play. I like to play however our players can play. I like the way we played last year when we had Amari Cooper catching 115 balls and running all over the place. I like that. I like however we can play. This just happens to be the best way this team can play. Our best, workhorse is a running back. We've got a pretty good offensive line that has made a tremendous amount of improvement throughout the season. We don't get a lot of negative plays. Jake is really good at the play-action passes and throwing the balls down the field. And, we seem to struggle a little bit more when we try to drop back, so we do the things that our players can do well, and that's why I like this team. But we've had all kinds of teams, and I'm not a run-and-play defense guy. I'm a score however you can score and play defense guy. So you always got to play defense.
In the middle with Kevin.
Nick, what went through your mind when they caught the tipped touchdown pass?
Well, we had the momentum of the game, right there, and it was 3rd down and 8 or 9. We played cover 2. They were in empty. We didn't make the right check on the empty side because we usually check. The players were a little confused, so we busted. But Gino still had a chance to make the play, but he sort of undercut the ball, and when the guy tipped the ball, then there was nobody left. So it was a big play for them. It's the one play that we gave up in the second half. It could have been critical in the game, but it certainly made us, bear down and continue to compete because we knew this was going to be a 60-minute game, and they've got a lot of good players, and they're all capable of making a play, but certainly, that play reminded me of the play they made against Georgia the same year they made the kick return against us, but it was a good play, and it counts for 7.
From Alex.
Obviously, you've been riding Derek all year. Can you provide some kind of context or perspective on he became the single-season rushing leader in Alabama history, surpassing Trent? Just what kind of season has he had?
There's been a lot of great players play at Alabama, a lot of great running backs. So I don't know if they all got as many opportunities as he got when they played. We've had some really good running backs here, first and second round draft picks, guys that are playing well in the NFL. But what Derek has done for this team, because this team needs him to do what he does, I would say he's made as significant an impact on his team as any players we've ever had.
In the back, Jen.
Coach, back here. Sorry, I'm smaller. Okay, Miss Terry said I could stand. So, want to go back to Griff for a second. After the LSU game, he told me that if he hadn't gone and stood by you before the 55-yard kick, you might not have called on him. But he thought if he stood by you, you would feel confident enough to call on him, and that's why you did. I'm not sure if that's true on your part, but how have you seen his confidence change throughout the season?
I didn't know he was standing by me,
Don't let him know that because he thinks that's why.
but I have to get permission at home to stand up too.
Hey, you know what? I asked if she had a good idea for a question for me, and she said, mm-mm. So I told her which one I was going to ask, and she approved it. So, two wins, right?
You know, I've always had a lot of confidence in Adam, and even when things weren't going well for him early in the season, I had confidence in him because I see him work every day, see him make kicks every day. I think sometimes he's a little too hard on himself, but I think that was as big a kick as he's ever made. But he made some really big kicks today, and I'm really, really proud of him for hanging in there and gaining his confidence back and doing the things that this team needs him to do, and he's done a fantastic job, especially these last 3 or 4 games.
Coach, you've talked repeatedly about how much you like this team. Can you expand on that a little bit? What makes this team so special to you?
We have not had an issue with this team all year long. This team has been together for 11 months now, and we've had very few issues. We don't have a lot of problems with players. Everybody buys in and does what they're supposed to do. The leadership on the team has been very, very good, and we also have players on the team that respond to the leadership. You know, sometimes you have good leadership, but the players don't respond to it. These guys all respond to it because they all buy in, and I think that's why we probably made the progress that we made. But it's really been that way off the field, on the field, in practice, in preparation for games, and the way they've competed in some really tough spots, you know, this year, especially on the road, against LSU here tonight. So that's why I like this team. They do things the right way. And we've had some teams that, when it gets to the end of the season, they lose their priority a little bit and start thinking a little bit about not what's necessarily best for playing for Alabama. And I don't think there's one player on this team that has ever thought 1 minute about not what's best for Alabama.
Right over here with Ivan.
2 questions. Have you ever run the same guy 14 times in a row at the end of the game?
I can't answer that, but I probably not.
Yeah. Was that, I mean, did you go tell Lane that's what you wanted to do, or did you, how did that
Well,
work?
Lane knew that we needed to run the ball, and I think when there was 9 or 10 minutes to go in the game, and we, even though we didn't score and we didn't make it on 4th down, we milked the clock down to 2:56. That was probably the most important part of the game. And the defense getting the stop. But it's hard to take a guy when we don't have another experienced back like Kenyon Drake, who I'm hopeful that we'll get back sometime soon, but we're not going to push him back. And we have 2 freshmen who have not played a lot. We need to play them more, but it's tough to put them in that situation. So, and Derek, he was not asking to come out. He was asking to stay in. And I asked him every time we came over to the sidelines, "Are you okay?" Because we'll put somebody else in there. He says, "Coach, I'm good. I'm going to win this game."
Last one with Rachel.
Coach, there's something to be said for the part of coaching that is a coach is able to rally the troops after a loss. You always mentioned this season, you mentioned the Ole Miss as being that seminal moment. I wonder if you would kind of elaborate on that, what you said to them, and how they took it, how they responded to it, and now you've gotten to this point in winning the West.
I always ask the players, I asked them last year after the Ole Miss game. I asked them this year after the Ole Miss game, how are you going to respond to a loss? It's the really true test of your character as a man as to how you respond when things don't go well. Everyone can be a front runner, and everybody can respond the right way when things are going your way. But now you have to realize that there are some tough things that you're going to have to do to overcome some of the adversity that you created by the way we played, and are you going to be willing to do that? And this team certainly responded the right way. So it's still, to me, their legacy as a team is going to be about how they finish. And I think they understand that.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. You know, I really appreciate our fans out there today, man. They had a great crowd out there. It was great enthusiasm, but you know, I could always hear our guys. I could always hear our people out there, and I appreciate that. I know our players do too.
Players outside.